Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics, as I talk to a variety of guests to better understand the teachings given by the masters through the Aetherius Society, the new cosmic religion for the Aquarian age, incorporating all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, healing, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note that this is an independent program not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, my guest is Winifred Adams. Hello, Winifred.
Hello, Jack. Nice to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to be here, and I'm returning the favor because I've already been a guest on your podcast, which was
That's right.
a wonderful
That's,
experience.
thank you. It was a wonderful experience to have you, and you really touched people. I know that they've said that, so I really appreciate you having come on. And I'm a fan of all of your hard work and amazing inspiration, musically and otherwise.
Oh, well, thank you. That's great. Well, hopefully I can return the favor and be as hospitable to you as you were to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, where would you like to start? Because we connected over healing, but there's a lot more to it. Maybe you could just give a short introduction to yourself and
Sure,
get the ball rolling.
absolutely. Well, my name is Winifred Adams, and I'm a medical intuitive, and I am and someone that's leading the biofield and medical intuition and science with the work that I've done over the years. And I've been doing this work for, over 20 years, essentially. I was born gifted with the understanding of quantum healing and what we call medical intuition. Although I never called myself a medical intuitive, I was given that tag, I was given that label, and people said, "This is what you do. So you should have that tag."
What
And at
does that
that point,
mean, though? Do you mean you do spiritual healing, or that you have intuition for the type of healing that could help someone?
that's a really good question because that's the point of medical intuition. We need to define that right now in the world because medical intuition is truly the ability to scan a body accurately, to be able to take a biofield and scan it and address and identify the energetic anomalies that are in that field. So when you can do that accurately, you can also test that against hard data. And when you come up accurate that way over and over again, now you have a real utility, let's say with doctors, with nurses, with people around the world that are in the allopathic field. But quantum healing or healing is outside of the definition of medical intuition. So healing, we like to lump it together and call it all one. But in fact, healing is a separate modality from the ability to accurately bioscan a body.
Because I've always imagined the best hospital would be one that had, you had your spiritual healer, you had your allopathy, you had your Ayurveda, you had surgery, you name it, all in one building. And you just kind of walk through these rooms and
I know.
somebody said, well, yeah, this is going to help you. Because, sometimes this is good for karmic reasons. The spiritual healing doesn't work, Dr. King said that all diseases can be cured, just not all people.
I love that. You know what? Amen to that sentiment. Thank you for saying that because that is so true. People really today want to see a healer um, enact a miracle because they
Mm.
think they deserve it. But as we know, you sort of earn your space and time, and you need to be responsible to your own creation of whatever you have done. But that doesn't take away from example, let's say like I've had people that are in the hospital, they're in a coma. They can't respond to that. They don't even know that they're in that position except for their spirit, which might be standing next to me in the room. However, that person is much easier to work with than the person that's
Really?
conscious. Yes, because they're out of the way. Their consciousness is not in the mix,
So you
and they're not.
prefer unconscious people.
Well, no, don't say that. I don't know, Jack.
I know I would. Yeah, people are a pain in the ass.
Uh, it's well, it takes great tenacity and an awful lot of patience, I'll say. It's a beautiful thing to witness when people align with their intention to sincerely heal, as well as the ability to heal. So, like you said, it would be a dream to walk into a facility that has all these modalities in one place that you can just choose among. I think,
Mm.
I need this, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to follow up with this, and then I'm going to follow up with this. That's the way it should be. And it will soon.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah,
Well,
it's so big.
it is interesting though, because also diseases can be very good. Some people have said being sick for those 2 years or whatever was the best thing that ever happened to me. I really, a lot of people have spiritual. Personally, I advanced because of illness, and I had to search because the Western mindset wasn't helping, so I had to search in another direction. So the illness can be a good thing.
It is, and it's ironically a big gift, and it's one of the biggest gifts that people will ever endure. I think a lot of my job and my work has always been trying to help people so they don't get to that place where they have to learn the hard way, so to speak. But I've had so many people that have come and I'm their last stop. The
Mm.
doctors have given up. There's no more in between. Where do they go from here? And they don't have an answer. They don't even have a proper diagnosis of what that is. They don't know what that is. So then when you can unravel that and find that root anomaly, now you give the person another lease on life, an opportunity to meet that. And I say meet that specifically. They meet it with their energy field to make that change. And, I've seen it over and over again. It's a beautiful divine thing. And when divine steps in to either shed grace on a person because they're willing to now make those changes, or divine is stepping up to the plate to do a lot of work on that person because they just don't have the ability. I've even seen people's soul contracts extended because they were willing to do the work. And I have other people that passed over that I can speak to in spirit that are regretful of not doing the work. So I've seen both sides of the coin.
So how does it work on a nuts and bolts basis when you're with a patient? Do you see their aura? Do you have a spirit guide talking to you? What's the actual mechanics of this?
That's a great question too. You know, I have a little bit of everything, and I'd say it evolves as well. As a child, I just could feel people. So I could feel you had a spot in you that was hurting or you didn't feel right. I felt it. I was that super duper empath. I could feel everything you felt and I
Wow,
would go
that's
right up
rough.
to it. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it was, but I didn't know other people couldn't do that. I didn't realize the world wasn't all geared the same way. Took me a while to figure that out. So when I did figure that out, I began to add modalities as I was guided to do based on the people that came in front of me. So first I started out with a biomechanical balancing and rehab with people. And because I could feel inside of them, I could feel when we were making that progress. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that work. And it was a basis for what I do now. And then I skipped into biomechanics and then moved into biology and into the biophysics science of people's anatomy. And I taught for an institute for a while for, tongue analysis and iridology and pulse analysis and all these things. So I did all of that work in herbology extensively. Then I took that and moved it into like sessions that would help people identify what was going on in their systems emotionally and otherwise. And now it's moved into what I call extreme healing, which is really moving the quantum field and using scalar light energy to enact or exact whatever is needed. And I've done things from like brain reformatting for people that were really not going to live, actually. And they walked out of the hospital 6 days later. And the doctors scratched their head like, what happened?
And how did you
That's
do that? You put your hands on or
no, it was remote. I, yep, remotely. So to go back to your original question, I see it, but I feel it. And I'm able to step inside the person and sort of look around their body, if you will. And I can identify where the issue is, but I can identify what's causing the issue, like the root cause of that.
is
It
it usually
begins,
emotional or is it an
yeah,
emo?
yes, yes. That I think, everything's a little bit emotionally based. I mean, the core of all issues come from how we perceive things and how we're attaching energy to those perceptions. Now that gets stored somewhere and then it comes out as a symptom. So it gets layered over time. And then many people are confounded because they don't know which symptom to start with. So my job is to go in and find the root, but I do it by either from the outside in talking about symptomology that the person has, and then tracing that back by what I can see and find. And I do use diagnostic tools like iridology and herbology and, things like that. But when it's more extreme, let's say the person that has a brain injury and they are in a coma, now there's no one to talk to and I have to just go in and do it. But divine shows me. Really want to make this clear. I'm not the doer. I get to be the conduit in this. And it does take a lot out of me because it's going through me and I'm able to sort of, let's say, open or close the flow of the energy that's coming in for that person according to what I'm supposed to do. And so if we took a brain injury, for example, you could see the neurons and the entanglement, and I can see that pretty clearly. And sometimes people speak to me. Sometimes it's spirit that speaks to me. Sometimes it's the person's guides that speak to me. But most of the time I see it and I can feel it, and then I can move the energies accordingly, or it appears like I'm moving the energies. And literally, it's like holding space until those energies are cleared. But a lot of energy is moving through at that point. And those things are verified by people that are standing in the room. So they can give that feedback like, yes, this is happening now. Like the person opened their eyes now. And yes, it's like that. So these things have happened.
And how do you choose your clients? Do people come to you, or do you walk through hospitals
No,
getting people out of bed? I mean, what?
no, sometimes I wish I did because I actually think that would be really fun. That would be easier. It'd be nice. But people, this is sort of funny. People come to me, I think, as they need to come to me. And I say that specifically because I do believe the spirit world sends people. Like they say, oh, this one can do that work. Let's somehow connect those dots and make
Mm.
that connection to this one. It's usually by referral. My whole business has been by referral over the years. People know me more now because I'm out there in the medical intuition tag, but it's it's something that is more of we can't find an answer here, so can you help us find that answer?
Right.
And someone knows.
Yeah, I wondered if I got very good at the healing and if I became the best healer in the world and I could just, heal everyone. You'd have to go around the world doing like football stadiums full of people and you'd heal everyone and then you'd be doing it full time and it, it just, wouldn't be practical. If no one got sick because you were doing all this healing and, Jesus didn't do that. He healed one or two as kind of an example. So there isn't, because people must ask, if you can heal, why don't you just heal everyone? Why don't you? But there's, like you said, the energy has to go through you. It drains you. You can focus on one, but you're not yet. Maybe in future lives, you're going to be this, you could do 10 at once or something. But yeah, you're limited, you're one person, you can heal one person at once. And then you do this and there's this moment of people who are directed to you. So yeah, I can completely understand that.
Yes, and I have done groups, I have done rooms of people, and that does happen because they become a collective energy field. So
So it does happen. Ah,
yeah, it can happen. I don't think that's an easy task, however, in terms of what you just said with the stadium and all that. I don't know if I'd want to do that, but if I were asked to do that and that's what flowed through me, I guess I would do that because healing comes on a lot of levels. I mean,
hmm.
you could heal people like through music, right? And that's a stadium. That's a whole
Maybe
ton
one
of
day.
people. Yeah. No, but you could. I mean, it's kind of it's not so uncommon. I mean,
Hmm.
we take things and we put them in a box of healing is this, right?
Mhm.
And healing is not it's so expansive because a miracle can happen anywhere. I think it's really about how receptive are people, and the receptivity is the key. So the more receptive someone is, the more they're going to get that.
Mhm.
Less receptive they are, they won't. And
So it does depend on the person who you're sending the healing to, unless if they're conscious.
absolutely,
You can deflect it. They would.
absolutely. We're having a city siren going behind me, so
But you're on the beach.
I know.
And is it sometimes the sickness, is it people's past lives or is it things they've just done in this life?
It's a little bit of everything. It really is. It could be everything at once in that one illness. And it it usually is a combination of those things, but sometimes people can recognize what they've been doing. I've had people say after the epiphany of deep trauma, they say, "Oh, I now realize what I'd been doing. I realize what my behavior was and now I need to correct it." But they get that inspiration with compassion toward themselves. It comes to them with this overwhelming compassion and then they get it. It's not a negative in their system of I'm going to beat myself up because I did these things. It's more of I need to change.
That's so good because otherwise what's the point in the illness? If you're gonna keep do this for your next life and you've already done it for lives before, we're here to learn. This is a classroom that you just dying and death and rebirth is just going from upstairs to downstairs to upstairs to downstairs. So
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That gets boring, doesn't it?
yeah, that's if you're repeating the same mistakes.
It's like, okay, are we done with this lesson yet? Okay, let's redo this and we'll do it better.
Yeah. So maybe that's what you're more of an educator than a healer then.
To some degree, I'm a facilitator, a space holder until they get it. But that the truth is, my particular skill set and job is to identify the root of where this is coming from because they can't see it or they don't know where it is. And that becomes a really important modality, like I said, with nurses and doctors in the allopathic world, because nurses and doctors are able to take those suggestions and improve them diagnostically. So they have something to come up against and maybe they're missing looking at the totality of that picture. And now they have the totality and the whole to compare against.
So because from the way you're talking, you have such a I could tell you've studied many, many things. You're very unusual for the healers I speak to. That it's usually once I guess it's the same with musicians. Once you're a great guitarist, you're not really worrying about learning the harmonica,
Yeah.
worrying about the drums. You've got your set.
Yes.
So you strike me as quite unusual because you have these you're a savant, you have these healing abilities, you have these contacts, but you're also studying a lot of what we would call Western medicine or science and the quantum field. So you definitely you've crossed over.
Well, it came because of necessity. I was born with a gift. And if I can say it this way, even though I delved into some study around the gift, and I did, I mean, I'm kind of nerdy. I like those things. I'd really rather talk bodies than talk about gossip. I'd really rather talk about these kinds of biosciences day in and day out than somebody's, thing that they're doing. So, but what I really find fascinating is that there's so many modalities that could be applied, but I was guided by what came in front of me. So I had a hard case, and then I had a case that was more than that, and then more than that. And I would say, okay, I've got these things. Now what do I do? And spirit would literally download on me, do this, do this, do this, or lead me to exactly what was needed, or just say, put your hands on them. Now you're going to notice this. Then it evolved to, I don't need to put my hands on you. I can just do this remotely and I can do it very accurately. And, I tell the story often of a doctor, a heart surgeon that I helped. And after helping him with some of his patients, I was able to then go and assist him for his own child. And I was able to include him in that because I couldn't go into the hospital at the time. But what I did do is through text, I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to use you as a surgeon. So I want you to put your right hand on this part of the cervical spine.
A text message.
Yes. And the left hand on this. And then I want you to hold it and hold on because the energy is going to come through me, through you. And it did. And he was shocked, but he could feel it. So I said, then again, okay, that's good. Now move your hand down to the lower lumbar and move it to this and this and this, and the other hand here and there. Anyway, we did this over a period of about a half an hour. And he was absolutely knocked out because the amount of energy that came through that he wasn't used to. But he was able to verify with me. I said, okay, we're done with this pass now. I can feel it. We're ready. We're done here. And he said, confirmed, the symptoms have mitigated. So he sat down, almost wiped out, which he shared with me later. Because the spinal meningitis was so intense, we had to get ahead of the replication. That was hard. That was difficult. But the next day he reached out to me again and he said, okay, I think I need your help again. And I said, okay. And so we did it again. I was actually out walking and I sat down on a bench and we did it that way. And
Oh my God.
yeah, honestly. And so then,
You couldn't make that up, could you?
oh no, no, you can't make this stuff up. That's what's so cool about it when you're really in it is it's so awe-inspiring because these things really, really do happen. And he's on the other end of that. He's getting a very deep dive very quickly into the quantum field, like it or not, because he's participating. He's not just thinking about it. He's part of it. So then the next day, he finally convinced his family that, this crazy lady out there needs to come in. So I went in and the child was very restless and the room was very chaotic. There was a lot going on, and the child's head was still hurting again. So we'd made steps, we'd made stages, but now they wanted to give the child a very heavy load of antibiotic. And I knew that was going to upend some of our work because it would tax the liver pretty heavily. So I told him that. And I said to him, I need to use some tuning forks right here. And I want to do this. I'm going to advance the energy field in the liver. And we're going to do this. And he literally stood back and just watched me with his hands behind his back. And I explained to him what I was doing and why. Then I said, okay, I need to use you. We're going to do a pass like we did the other day. So put your hands on his feet and I'm going to put my hands on his head. And that energy, divine, loving, all that is source, God energy came through and worked through every cell of that child's body, right through his feet. And he was like saying to me, I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking. And I said, hold that. Just hold it and ground it. And so he did. And at that point, the child was, the pass was finished. It was complete. And the child healed after that completely.
No antibiotics needed.
I don't know if they use antibiotics after that. They may have anyway, but it didn't matter. It overrode everything. That's what I'm saying.
So when you walked in the room and it was chaotic, what do you mean? The energy was not.
Well, the families are worried, I have this funny pesky fruit fly. The families were worried. And when they're worried, what happens is everyone becomes very, okay, hold on a minute. I have this fruit fly that's going around me. He wants to come radiation, right? He's coming to the energy. It's part of the party. Like, okay, dude, go away. So, the radiation in the room was not settled enough for the child to receive what needed to happen. And as people worry at a person, then that worry becomes something that they add to the field with. It's difficult, right? So nurses hold space a lot. God, thank God for nurses. They hold the spaces in these rooms and outside these rooms monitoring, but they're holding space in a sense. And when families are continually worried, it's the field of the person can sense that. And it kept the child kind of agitated. So what I did is I sat down in the nursing chair and I just took all the energy out of the room and quieted it. I prayed, if you want to look at it that way. And we take the I out of it. As I prayed, divine came into the room, quieted the room. Literally, everyone fell asleep in the room and I was able to work on the child.
You're kidding.
No, really, that's what happened. So it's settling the energy and taking that charge out of the space that is unsettled and moving that into a place of neutrality. And in the neutrality, something can get done. I mean, I am not likening myself to Jesus, but if you want to look at the physics of that, he did that in his time when he would take the energy and change the energy, right? So no one taught me that. It's what needed to be done, so it got done. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
I can explain it to you, but it's not something that someone said in a book, okay, you do this and then you do that and you do this. Because when you're really dealing with a moving, living biofield, the energies come in and they do what they're supposed to do up to the point that the person will receive that. And I believe that. I have total faith. I think that's the thing is you have to have complete faith. It's not me doing it. It's not how good I can be. The only thing I need to do is accurately get out of the way and then do what I'm asked to do within that. And I do see spirit doctors. I do see saints and spirits that come in. I do feel that energy and work with it. That's the best way I can explain it.
Wow, you're like the f- the fulcrum, the
Yeah, you're the switch in the middle of this, right? And so if you don't, if you're distracted, you really could harm this event. You can't be distracted. You can't be in that space.
So would it have helped if they'd taken the child to nature or to like a holy place, or was the vibrations of that room, the concentrated energies were
Yeah.
impeding your healing though?
Well, hospitals are pretty dense in energy anyway.
Is that why
There's-
people get so sick when they go to hospitals as well? They often come out with something else or
Yeah, I'll tell you a sweet story. I took tuning bowls to a children's hospital early on in my career because I was going about singing to tuning bowls to congregations and churches and things, and that was sort of my fun, right? And I really enjoyed the sound healing and the frequency, as you know. And so um, when I went into the hospital to do that, um, they brought kids that had just had surgery for cancers and things like that. Now, I didn't know anything about these children, but I set up the tuning bowls accordingly and began to play them. And just hearing that and feeling the vibration, all the kids moved and gravitated toward those bowls. Well, they gravitated to the sound that corresponded with the surgery or the operation that they had that would heal that organ or that body part.
wow.
And no one needed to tell anybody that. That's my point, is that you don't, it, it just happens. It's just, that you can almost figure it out after the fact. You can have the science explain it after the fact. But the point is, it's happening and you have to recognize it's happening, be in it, be available.
So you've just written a book which has become construct to the bestseller though, straight to the top.
Ah, yeah, thank you. I am a part of a few really beautiful collaborations. And my own personal book is forthcoming, but these collaborations are near and dear. They're with wonderful women, and the Women's Speaker Association has been a great boon to me. And we just launched a book called Voices of the 21st Century. And yes, we hit number one bestseller internationally, and we've ranked along the way in all kinds of women's categories. But these are inspirational things. And in the book, I'm talking about my specialty of quantum healing and the medical intuition and how I came to that and using that accurately and how it's affected us and how it can affect us. And so there's good examples in there.
Okay,
You can
I'll
you can
put
get it at Amazon.
it in remember. What's the title?
Voices of the 21st Century. It's the latest one out, and it's just really sweet. It's caring women, conscious caring women that make a difference in our world.
Yeah, almost the majority of people I speak to on this podcast are women, and it's
Yes.
just yeah. So
Well, it's a wonderful thing, all these different modalities.
mm,
Uh, you know, there's something for everybody and there's something for different times. Like you might need this modality at this time and then you need that modality at that time. And Aren't we lucky that we get all this today and that we get to be a part of a world that has that
Yeah.
available?
Do you feel great responsibility because you're not just an ordinary healer, but you have the organizational ability and you're at these intersections. I mean, what's your sole mission this time around? What's your big plan? Do you have to start a new healing center? Do you have to start a new chain of hospitals? What's the brief this time?
I would love that. I do have in mind a special, specific healing center that I would like to employ, and I would like to get that going and out there. And that is something that is my end game dream, a place that I can kind of leave behind where people can go to and continue to receive no matter the advancement in technology or biosciences or whatever. Like it would house that as well as an educational place where people could come. And I'm all about the experience, I like the experience of things because I don't think you learn without the experience. So that's really something that I'm looking forward to. And I'm working at putting together what it's going to take to do that and then get those going around the world because we have a new world in front of us that's upcoming. And that world is going to shape us, but there's certain basic truths, as you know, in this world that never change. And those truths rule the universe and our experience within the universe and our spiritual ascension. So if we can get into alignment with that, we have the opportunity to not only heal, but experience that without the need to be ill. And I think that would be what I would love to see. I think it'd be great to see a world without viruses.
Well, it's all karmic. So once we have burned up enough karma, but yeah, I mean, but what you were saying before about we have to embrace all these modalities because I mean, the spirit doctors, I know they use technology on the other realms to heal us on this realm. So
Yes,
I mean,
they do. They
yeah,
do. I've
advanced.
seen it. I'll tell you something really interesting. In Malibu, we had the Woolsey fire, and that was a devastating fire. It just scorched the land. It actually damaged the crystalline grid underneath the land, and that's the
Wow.
first thing I saw after the fire. Like this grid got singed or burned. The energy of it was altered.
What's the grid? The lines of the earth.
The ley lines, but it
Ley-
was like crystalline grids that, there's the ocean and then there's quick mountains right there. And so underneath those mountains, there was a lot of damage and the potency of the crystalline grid was damaged. And in a deep meditation, a quantum meditation, which is something that I do with people now, even, we went in and looked at this and we could see like a spacecraft that came over and was actually pulling the animals up and treating them and then putting them back down. And it was also using a magnetic kind of field that was taking the soil and the water and recalibrating it to get it set again. But in this, what I will call a ship, right? There was like a veterinarian room, if you will, where they brought these animals. And there were cubes in the wall of plasma. And they would reach into this, like it would be like reaching into jello, into this plasma, but it wasn't even really jello. It was just sort of energy. And it looked like that. And they would do something and pull something out and treat the animal. And this whole room was full of these like plasma cubes. And they would use that. There was some technology in that plasma and in the room itself. And then they would move the animals back to Earth. But they were using technology of magnetics to redo the soil and help where the damage had been done on the surface.
Was that UFO craft or
Yeah. Yeah. And I have seen real UFOs out there. And I don't spend a lot of time focusing on that. That's not where I live. It's not that I disbelieve it, but boy, were we surprised when that came up and we thought, holy cow, look at this. Look at what's going on here. It's what you don't see, right? And
Yeah.
here it is in another dimension. Now it's come up So yeah,
Well, I just this is too short an hour to speak to you. I mean, you know, just too much. You've had too much life experience. I think what people really help is these anecdotes. Do people want to hear? Obviously, we'll give the end where people gonna want to listen to you more about you, so they will give those links at the end. But maybe you could just give some more, anecdotes. Maybe about have you treated diseases like chronic diseases, but not
sure.
like
Oh yeah.
diabetes, for example.
Yeah. Diabetes is something that is really more about, in my experience, parasites and the liver. And
Okay.
so an imbalance in the liver will have you leaning more toward diabetes. And it makes sense really, because if you're moving and you're active, your body's flowing, things are happening. Now, what would get in the way of that that would make something very permanent in your system that you cannot treat or get over? Well, I had a lady early on in my career, and I went to see her at her office, and she tested in herbology in the muscle testing for parasites. Well, she tested technically, if you want to get real technical, to the things that would work for parasites, because I can't diagnose in my field. I can see it, but I can't diagnose it. So what she tests for tells a story. And she tested for everything that was for parasites. And so when I was all done, I said to her, "Don't tell me anything about you. I'm going to tell you about you." And I did. And I said, "Okay, here's what I've come up with. And this is what I feel is maybe at the bottom of this." And she said, "Oh, that's interesting because um, I'm having trouble. Like I can't unbend my elbow now because it's fused together."
It happens with diabetes, yeah.
And she also had parasites, right? So she said, "Yeah, my dad came back from serving in Africa and all his joints fused. And they diagnosed him with a parasite in the petri dish. I mean, they could see it. It happened." Well, apparently she got it as well. And her joint had also fused. But just like him, she was testing for everything that was leading toward parasites, right? So it was a very good example to me early on to say, okay, I see the correlation of what's going on. And it's not something you'd really think about in terms of the fusing of the joints and so on. You can't really unfuse a joint at that point because the body's working very hard to calcify it. But what you can do is begin to whittle it a little bit and stop what's causing it. So that's the key. Like people have deposits that go on their fingers or on their neck or in their mouth near their teeth. That deposit is because what's happening is their body's too overacid on a regular basis.
Mm.
So the body's pulling an inordinate sum of calcium to deal with the alkaline and trying to alkaline the body. When it's done doing the process, it takes the excess calcium and begins to deposit at different places. And so when you can stop why it's happening in the first place, you generally don't have the symptoms anymore, or begins to reverse them. That's why like green juicing would work.
Because I've tried everything from my mother-in-law, so I am asking for selfish reasons. She has diabetes, and
Okay.
yeah, we took her to India as well. And would you be available for a consultation? Do you think you could talk
Sure, of
to her?
course. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Um, Definitely. I don't want to get into that on air because it involves other personal things as
Mhm.
well.
I
And
can
those
sign
things
up on your website. Is it
you can just email me. Sure,
okay? No, but I
absolutely.
mean
I
for other
can.
people watching.
Hmm. Yeah.
Anyone watching this who has a problem, they can also contact you.
Yes, absolutely. Through my website. You'll find my contact information on my website. And
Okay.
I'm happy to work with people and help. I also do quantum healing meditations, which can usually mitigate quite a bit of things with people. It's a little more advanced, but yes, I'm available in that way if people need me, and I'd be happy to help your mom. There's some neat remedies out there that can help, but sometimes when it seems like it's not fixing itself, it's because multiple things are going on. There's more than one thing that's happening, and you have to figure out where that core is. And in her case, I do feel that there's some emotional things that are deep in her, some regret, some grief, things like that that are kind of making this an issue over and over again, kind of storing some things, but we'll get into that privately.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Yeah. So maybe you could give some more examples of just anything that pops into your mind of other healing examples in the time we have left.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you a really fun one. I do work with animals. I had a cat one time that had a gangrene toe, and though he didn't like it, it was getting really bad. And I took the foot and soaked it in some cayenne pepper water, and it fixed it. It just pulled
Really?
it right out. Sure. Yeah. Animals need minerals too. We often neglect our animals and think that everything that they get in their food is correct, and it's not. But I give my cats liquid chlorophyll and trace minerals, and they love it. They sit down for the drops, and I tell them they're going to get your drops, and they come. And sometimes I put other things in it, like antiparasitics or things like that. And it works very, very well. And they've stayed healthy. No big surgeries, no big vet bills. It's just a matter of preventative in a way.
Gosh. Yeah, you're so unusual to have such a full box of tricks as
The box comes from experience because they came in front of me.
mm.
These things came in front of me to manage or heal or work with. I didn't go looking for it.
So you just think cayenne pepper just seems this is gonna suck out, but it
Yes,
was there. Yeah.
yes, yes. And that honestly, and then what I would do is I I spent a while pulling people off the street. I'm like, "Don't tell me anything about you. I'm gonna tell you everything about you." And I did, and I would go and I'd open up books, all kinds of books, and I would research why that was the case. Like, I would put it together right down to the mineral component of the herb that they called for. Like, this herb has 10 different components in it, but the highest one is magnesium. That explains why you need da 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 da. Da. And I went through it over and over again until it became so automatic to me, but I would research what I came up on after the fact.
But
Because you just
that must help them as well, because we all like this, we've all been programmed in our materialistic mindset to if we need these magnesium, these 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 supplements. So if you can explain it to that language, it's easier for people to understand than, white light coming down there.
exactly. I always believe that there's a science in the spirituality and the spiritual bridge, if you will, because it is creating that. It's you're meeting people where they can be met. They're coming for assistance. They either don't have an answer or they've been chronically ill. I mean, I've seen Lyme disease, I've worked with cancer, I've worked with things that people can't even put a name to. They don't even know what it is, and the doctors give up. Well, we don't know what to do. We can't find anything. So that's where this comes in very handy because we're going in and we're looking for what unravels. And just like a spiritual ascension, this unfolds. It's like a flower that's blooming. So it just kind of begins to unfold.
Yeah, you put it all together because I know from my metaphysics studies we have seven different bodies and there's the mental body and the astral body and you carry these things on and sankaras and damages to the aura and anything. Most people don't get that, but they can even these days people can understand that that mind and stress, if they just call it stress, then causes so many imbalances in the body just because maybe you're holding tension or just blockages. And
Yes. Yes.
it's really about communication, isn't it? At a fundamental level, you're able to communicate this to themselves.
Yes. It's able to be broken down and explained
Mm.
more thoroughly. But like what you're saying at the end of the line, if you were to sit down and meditate and truly meditate and relax for, a good half an hour, if you're able to hold that space for an hour or more, you can't help but feel the change.
Mhm.
It's the problem of being able to just sit down and still your mind and still your body. So sometimes, like in the hospital room with a baby, you need to override the frequencies so that the frequencies can settle. Like just bring it down, and then they settle. Now once they're settled, now they can receive. And sometimes that's necessary in an emergency or in a dire situation. But I think the core fundamental thing is when you believe, then all things are possible. It's a belief system of receiving. And when you can receive that, now you have a different frequency of humility and honor so that you can honor that which is coming. Because if you reject that which is coming or arrogantly say, oh, well, prove it to me. Oh, prove it to me. I've had a lot of those experiences where people wanted it proven to them and they got it proven to them. And it's not what they wanted. And it wasn't from me. It was later. Like they realized they were humbled because they're asking for help, but they're sort of um, pushing back at the help that's being given. And that doesn't always work. So to be respectful and humble to the source of what happens, because it's a powerful source. That's true.
But that's what I'm really taking from you is because we can get bogged down in the details of, I need to make notes about cayenne pepper for gangrene, but or study. I need to have a list of the books you've read or that. But those are just the details. And what I'm taking from you is that if we just if we sit in the silence, if we hold the space, then we stop creating the problems which have caused the problem in the first place. It's like a panacea or what's that
Yes,
thing
yes.
panacea that cures everything.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
just being still.
Yes. I believe that. I know that to be true. I can prove it again and again and again. You can give me 8 hours of people in a line at the door, and each one of them will feel better the moment they leave. I can make that happen for sure because I can prove what you just said is true. And that is a real thing. Getting through people's psyche, getting through their chemistry can be a little challenging. And then, you always have the experience of souls that are learning, and the souls that are learning, they get the excitement of seeing that happen. And then they go, oh, look at what I can do. I'm the doer. And that's where it goes awry because they're not the doer still. They have to be the one that is just facilitating the doing. The doing gets done. How you facilitate it is your gift. you know,
Did you always realize this, or how did it
yes,
come for you? It was okay.
yes. I knew this from when I was little. I couldn't talk to anyone about it because there was no one to talk to. They didn't understand. No one around me could tell me any of these things or help me dialogue about it. It was a self discovery. And then, obviously I found a spiritual path that worked for me and through the study of light and sound and have had a master of light and sound work with me, which was not teaching any of these modalities at all. There was none of that happened. Do this, do that, do that. None of that. It was the overseer of what I was guided to do, knowing that beautiful love was with me, assisting, and that I would step back to watch what was happening in that guidance. And that's the key. So that that takes discipline too. I was a wily child. Yeah, I was kind of a racehorse. Let's go, let's go, let's go. No, settle down, dear. No, let's go. No, not now, dear. So I've had some tempering myself along the way.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have a conscious mind that was holding you back. No, you wouldn't even be on this planet. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. we we are we are in our ascent.
Mm.
So
Yeah, yeah. Oh wow. So yeah, super fantastic to connect there, Winifred. Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really good fun because it's medical intuition is so misunderstood around the world. And I really want to say that
Yeah, I've never heard of it before. Yeah.
medical intuition is known in different countries, but it's sort of the words for explaining how people accurately scan the biofield and get it right.
Mm.
Um, it's not considered healing. Quantum physics is an entirely different modality. It's a totally different thing.
Do you think the problem is like we let people do our thinking for us? We delegate our thinking. So imagine if back in the day, we were all, I don't know, we were all in the village or we were in the rainforest or in tribes or whatever. You'd have someone like you who, the wise woman of the village who, and they'd have complete faith in you because they, you healed so many people in advance. But now we're all fragmented all over the world and, people asking you for proof and evidence and,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
exactly. Scattered about and be the dancing bear of miracles, please.
Mm.
No, thank you. I really like to stay in the humility. If honest to God, if someone sincerely asked me, no matter what I was doing, I would drop everything to help them. But so few people are truly sincere. They just want relief from their problem. They don't they don't really want healing until they get to a live or die situation. They just want, please take away the pain that I'm experiencing. Please take away the discomfort of me. Take me away from me temporarily, right?
Well, there's other things, drugs and alcohol and
Yeah.
and Netflix and
But yeah. Choose your addiction. Sugar, mine is
I remember
Starbucks.
when I was even doing an Ayurveda, it was like always it's lifestyle diseases. Everything is a lifestyle disease. So many. I mean, not many people are having, the number of diseases which are the ones you were talking about, the really rare ones are they're a tiny fraction, and most people are suffering from their own habits.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the word, isn't it? Their habits. And their habits are creating their chemistry and then their behaviors. And it's not something they can easily escape. And so you have to have compassion for people in general because you don't know what they're up against and what their sociological training is and the influences. And
Yeah,
everyone just wants love at the end of the day, we
we
want,
are love. So
there you go. Yes.
yeah, we have to break out. I mean, I'm thin because I know I do too much movement. I talk too much. I'm thinking too much. I don't eat enough. So you're your habits, So I guess.
I'll trade you. I'll trade you right now.
Yeah.
I used to be like you until this is interesting, until I started holding much more of this responsibility and
Right.
my body morphed. It's not a way that I like it, but it morphed and I had to accept that because I wouldn't stop holding a responsibility, but my body changed in order to hold more. I don't know how to explain that, more frequency. Now, that's not to say people can't be super thin and fit to do this work. That's not the point. I'm just saying I noticed that. I noticed the shift in that when having to hold more energies.
Mm. Do you take enough time for you?
Sometimes I'd like to say I do, but it seems to me there's always something more that comes up. So every now and then I just have to call it and say, okay, that's enough.
Mm.
you know, no more. But every day I'm out in the woods, every day I'm out walking,
Uh,
every day I'm out, yes, and I'm attuning to nature. And
recharging.
but what I'd really like to do is an ideal day would be to go into my own healing center and go through a series of modalities and get recharged and then start my day, right? Or end my day that way. That's what I'd like to do. So
Oh, you make your own reality, so I'm sure that will happen. Yeah.
thank you, Jack.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we could keep chatting. This is just a snapshot of Winifred Adams. So, how can people follow you? Are you your amazing podcast? I mean, don't know how you
Thank
find
you.
the time to do that, but
Yes, it's
what's
all.
the is it website? Remind people of your website and where to find you. And
I have two websites actually. I started out with Making Life Brighter. So that's kind of my theme company. Making Life Brighter encompasses the radio and where people can find me for the healing work and the quantum meditations and all the information about me and reach me. Makinglifebrighter.com. So the other one is the global you can look up in Google the Global Association of Medical Intuitives. Technically it's Association of Medical Intuitives.com. And so just look up the Global Association of Medical Intuitives and you'll find us there. So if you're a medical intuitive aspiring to be, or you are, or you're in the biofield sciences, or you're in any of that, we want you on board with us so that we can bring that world together and prove to the world that this really matters and it is what's coming. It's here. Even if AI gets really busy and can do neat things, there is nothing greater than the human instrument. And if all the lights went off and all the electricity ended tomorrow and hospitals didn't have more backup generators, you would want folks that can help you and assist you with this beautiful skill set. And more children are being born with these gifts
Mm.
of these propensities because we're leaning in that direction, right? So
Mhm.
it's kind of right timing for this to come to fruition now.
Yeah, we should all be like you. I mean, you're not special. It's just the rest of us are disabled. So
Yeah, well, when you can hold that amount of frequency, then my hat's off to you because that takes training.
mm,
And the accuracy of that takes real pointed training for
mm,
years. It takes
yeah,
great training.
yeah,
But everybody has in them an inherent knowledge and should be able to listen to themselves, which is I think what you're saying. They should
yeah.
know themselves to the point where maybe one day it would even render us useless,
Mm.
right?
No, well, I mean, we should. That's what I meant to say is I know you're doing incredible work, and not just your ability as a healer, but also your organizational ability. Starting this association. I mean, and things like that is incredible. But we should all be able to. We shouldn't need to go to a doctor to ask what's happening inside our own body. I mean, you should be able to just. I should be able to feel what my liver's doing now. I should be able to. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I,
Even that though, I think the marriage of the two is really important for our next step. And why I think that is because the diagnostic proof and being able to look at it has its advantages. It tells a story too. So everything in us tells a story. And
mm,
we are looking for, in what I call in my keynote and all that, the accuracy. It is accuracy. You have to
mm,
be accurate within what you're doing. And just like if you're going to ascend, you have to accurately hone your energy field in order to move through dimensional frequencies and windows, because it's like the penitent man doesn't pass. You don't get to go further if your energy's out of alignment. It's no
yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah. I remember a good quote was it from Dr. King? I think that the only difference between us and this pen, for example, is that we've lodged a bit more consciousness in our form. So we're accumulating more consciousness on our way back to God. We're amalgamating, and most of us haven't got this, haven't lumped enough consciousness together to advance. We're not holding the space. Going back full circle to what you said. So
Yeah, I agree.
mm,
I'm with you.
I
That's
guess.
so true. So true.
All right, Winifred. But I'll get in touch with my mother-in-law and take it from
Yes.
there.
Please, Jack, thank you so much for having me on your wonderful show. And I am so impressed by your work and the things that you're doing for our world. It's powerful. So thank you.
Well, right back at you.
Yeah, very good. Go Jolly. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Okay, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.